All right, as we check in with our Luke Doris on a lovely evening, 61 degrees. We're feeling a little bit of a dip.
Absolutely. We're going to need those long sleeves tomorrow.
Well, Janice is ready. She's been ready all day, man.
To be fair, it's very cold in the studio. All the time, okay?
I don't know how you ladies make it through, because we at least get the jackets,
Yeah, you
Calvin.
guys are fine all the time. We suffer.
Yeah, well, tomorrow morning everybody's going to feel the chill because we'll be in the 50s in spots. Not everybody gets the 50s, but you'll be close if you're not there. Dry and cool again tomorrow. And then this is probably the main piece of this forecast, is the possibility or even likelihood of heavy rain, maybe some flooding late this week. All right, temperatures right now, we're in the 60s still, but low 60s at that. 61 in Miami, 60 in Fort Lauderdale, 67 in Key West. My forecast might be a little bit too warm because I was having a lot of us stay in the low 60s. If we're already there and it's almost midnight, we've got some time to drop. We'll see. I might be wrong. 40 right now in Tallahassee, 42 in Gainesville. Cool air is working its way through the state. Here's the low temperatures as we get to about sunrise tomorrow. But again, I was thinking 62, and we're already down to 61. So don't be surprised if this is a little bit too warm. But 50s, upper 50s at that for a lot of spots tonight. Some of us stay in the low 60s. Here's your forecast for tomorrow, 77 with a 10% rain chance. I don't think we're seeing rain tomorrow. And cool, breezy. You're going to notice the breeze tomorrow and much of this week. High temperatures this week, all of them below normal. We're going to do mid to upper 70s all week long, but a big part of the reason why is cloud cover and rain. You can see the computer forecast here. Tomorrow, we're not worried about rain, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, game on for showers and maybe even heavy rain. All right, so here's tomorrow. Clouds around, but you don't see any green on the maps. There's the front. That's the one that cooled us down. But this thing is going to come back at us for seconds, and this time it brings the rain with it, all right? So it scoops up that moisture out of the ocean. Rounds of rain move in starting on Wednesday. It won't rain the entire time, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but with this in the area, it's going to stir up the atmosphere and bring periods of showers, and some of them will probably be heavy, and we just nose right into the swath of heavy rain here in South Florida. That red that you see right there, by the way, that corresponds to 4 inches. 3 to 5 inches is what the computer forecasts have been putting out from Wednesday through Friday. That's a lot of rain. That's why we could be seeing some flooding. Also, the wind here, just not pleasant weather. It really gets going on Thursday, but it'll last Friday and into Saturday. Northeast, 15 to 20 mile per hour sustained winds. The gusts will be higher than that at 25 to 30. So low 60s, upper 50s tonight. Here's tomorrow, and we'll have the clouds at times. I think the sun's going to pop through from time to time. We'll go to 77. Today was in the low 70s, so tomorrow will be a little bit warmer. But this week is all, again, mild. Tonight, by far the coldest night in the forecast. After that, we're going to take about a 10-degree jump, and rain lingering into your weekend. Keep your eye on weekend plans. It may not rain all weekend. I don't think it'll be as heavy as what we have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but showers still possible. We'll keep you posted. Janice?
Well, a family grieving and a community reeling as cleanup continues here in Middle Tennessee. Close to 6,000 customers remain without power in Montgomery County this morning, with freezing temps in some of the hardest hit spots. And we'll get to all of that. But can you just imagine, you know, it's Friday evening, and that's where we'll start this timestamp, when we really haven't had any storm reports and really haven't seen anything fire up. It's Friday night. You're with your family. You're thinking, okay, what do you guys want to do this weekend? Little to know that by Saturday morning or midday Saturday, things are going to completely change. And by the time we head into that, 10 o'clock hour, we started to see something fire up here right around, the Mississippi River Valley area in western Tennessee. And we started to see more storm reports come in. Big hail. We got our first tornado, warning that was issued. And then that whole thing became this strong line of storms that then rocked and rolled through many states. You had baseball-sized hail. Obviously, the tornadoes turned deadly. And then you had big wind damage that came with it, which is why we still have some power outages this morning. But there was a couple of lines that we watched into your weekend that created terrible situations from a tornadic perspective. You had that one up towards Clarksville, and then you had another storm system kind of form west of Nashville and just skirt north of the city and continued its eastward track. So we've got two, paths, so to speak, that had these very, very strong twisters. And the EF3 here in Clarksville went into Montgomery County, as we mentioned, but also Todd and Logan County of southern Kentucky. And that thing was on the ground for 43 miles, okay? And it was racing east-northeast. And then you take a look at the second system, and there's no path here yet that the National Weather Service has drawn out because they're still conducting their survey. But as of right now, preliminarily speaking, This will be an EF2 at 125 miles per hour, and we're still waiting to see what that length was. So as many of you waking up this morning, obviously some of you are still without power. The number is actually closer to 7,000 total here in Tennessee. That's outages, and I know crews are trying to do what they can to get their power back on. But remember, you had like this substation that lit up as well, so that's going to take some time to do so. When you look at the average reports, the average tornado reports here in Tennessee specifically, okay, from 2013 to 2022, you actually kind of see a bit of a spike here for December. When you take a look at seasonally speaking, there is a lull in the late summer months, but we see it peak back up in the winter when you typically see storm reports go down from a national perspective. So Tennessee's kind of been this hard hit, Tennessee, Kentucky, this hard hit targeted area this time of year, and now you're waking up with temperatures in the 20s. Jim talked a lot yesterday extensively about pipes and the worry about pipes potentially bursting with temperatures this chilly. And so we've got this good stretch of freezing temperatures for much of the South in areas that were potentially damaged by the storm. So moral of the story is, what do we do going forward? Yesterday we had plenty of sunshine. Today we're going to get that yet again. Temperatures in the 50s. You should see some low 60s south of that I-20 corridor. But yet again in the morning hours it's going to be very, very cold with these temperatures at freezing or maybe even a little below that. Kelly?
And cold enough for snow in parts of the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic. Check it out. The plows and the shovels had to come out, clearing sidewalks and roads. Powder covering up boxes in upstate New York. Fat flakes dropping in D.C., where 1/10 of an inch was officially reported there. Wet, heavy snow coating the roadways north of Philly and Quakertown, over a foot. In some spots of upstate New York, I noticed that the Catskills, the Adirondacks did fairly well. And that's a good thing because we started off with rain initially, and then we did switch over to snow. So places like Hunter, Bel Air, seeing 6 to 8 inches of snow. Gore Mountain in the Adirondacks picking up a ½ a foot as well.
Unfortunately, we have more bad weather on the way for parts of the southern U.S. over the next couple of days, but I don't think there's a significant risk of severe weather. This is instead a heavy rain, potential flooding event for parts of Texas. And this goes really more so later on tonight and tomorrow beginning, I would say, and then lasting for a couple of days into the upcoming weekend. So a lot of rain is on the way for Texas. It's not all going to come at once, but we've got plenty of moisture coming in off the Pacific Ocean and other areas that is going to saturate this region with a lot of rain. This is our forecast here, and we're going 2 to 3 inches at least in some spots in Texas. There's also going to be a significant snow component to it across parts of New Mexico and maybe even southeastern Colorado. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm focusing on the rain that is upcoming for the southern tier of the U.S., including, well, in particular, Texas. Look at this jet stream map that I'm putting in place here. And the reason why we're going to get a lot of heavy rain into Texas is twofold. One, we've got a pretty active sort of jet stream, the polar jet stream, the one that we think of that carries all those cold air masses this time of year. We have another aspect of the high altitude winds coming right off the tropical Pacific Ocean, the subtropical jet. This is what's called a local Hadley cell. For those of you interested in the weather more deeply, it's a sort of coming off the tops of the thunderstorms over the Pacific Ocean. Both of those batches of wind energy are conspiring to set us up for a lot of rain here in the coming days. And you can imagine with that airflow coming off the tropical Pacific, that air will also be very rich with moisture. But look at what El Nino typically does. This is the textbook view of El Nino. Does it not look exactly like what we've got with those two jet streams? We've got the polar jet stream doing that. We've got subtropical jet stream doing that with a lot of thunderstorm activity in the East Pacific. That is the classic textbook El Nino picture, and what we've got now is exactly that. How often does the atmosphere actually show up and look like a textbook? This is one of those times, and that moisture coming in to parts of the southern U.S. real quick, I'm going to get you through this forecast, is going to lead to heavy rain beginning tomorrow, going through Thursday, going into Friday. So, Alex, several days worth of very heavy rain. Thank you, El Nino.
Now, as we go into January, similar locations would be at risk for severe storms and tornadoes. The greatest risk going to be across our southern states, but again, can extend north of the Ohio River, can extend down into Florida. Typically, in the winter months, Florida can get a decent amount of severe weather. Something to watch out for. Alex?
Absolutely. And then we look at South Florida, Miami right now. We've got lots of cloud cover overhead, and it's a big week of clouds and rain. Dr. Nab, some of these amounts could be really impressive.
And when you add it up over the next week, you're not kidding, Alex, especially this weekend, we could have some really heavy rain over a large area. It's going to be rainy and windy, not so much the afternoon thunderstorms kind of setup, but we have wind advisories for southeastern Florida. This will probably have to get extended beyond tomorrow. We got gusts 25 to 30 miles an hour on the east coast of Florida, on the south side of this big high that's going to be taking up residence over the eastern U.S. much of the week. And we've got a front that has come through Florida, but it'll be coming back to the north and eventually meeting up with this guy. This system in the middle and upper levels out west, that's going to be sliding across the Gulf and toward Florida and make for a very rainy and perhaps windy, maybe even stormy weekend. Watch the middle and upper level pattern here in the white lines as this system comes across Texas, and it's a low latitude trough. Otherwise, we have ridging in the continental U.S., but then that front interacts with that upper level trough. We get a new low pressure possibly forming. The details of this hard to work out, but this weekend we could have a strengthening cyclone, a non-tropical low moving across Florida and into the Atlantic, and we'll have to see what that does for the mid-Atlantic and Northeast later. But watch how this high stays in place. Here's the front that went through, but by tomorrow it's backing up, and here begins the rainy period. Tomorrow, southeastern Florida, isolated flooding on the roadways. That will be basically the same tune on Thursday night into Friday morning, because that front is just going to hang out in this zone south of the high. So easterly winds and rainy weather in southern Florida because of that frontal boundary that hangs around into Friday. But then you see the beginnings of that disturbance starting to move into the Gulf. So Friday, one more day of the southeast coast being a problem, but then the rain and the wind start to expand on Saturday as we potentially have this low pressure system starting to form. Here's the Euro model showing the low here in the southeastern Gulf. So this is really far to the south, enhancing the winds. And maybe if this system were to put southern Florida in the warm sector of a frontal system, could we have a severe weather setup? That's at least a possibility we'll have to keep our eyes on, but at least more rain, more wind, and I think amped up compared to what you're going to get over the next 2 or 3 days into Saturday night into Sunday, and the low could be strengthening off the east coast of the U.S., so that could bring more than just Florida into play eventually. But looking at Wednesday through Monday, could have several inches of rain, and locally we could get more than this in some of those metro areas of southeastern and the east coast of central Florida. The GFS has a little bit more rain a little bit farther to the north, and there is going to be a wind component. We're going to routinely have gusts 30, maybe even 40 miles an hour on the east coast all week long. And then how strong could the winds get this weekend as that low potentially cranks up over the state, Alex?
We'll get over to Jim to kind of break everything down, because this weekend's just overall, you could just say it's somewhat nasty.
Yeah, high impact, okay, is kind of a couple of words to describe it here for you. Windy conditions causing issues in Florida this week, especially on the southeast side. But this is actually the Tampa Bay area, okay? Winds pushed water out yesterday, bringing extremely low tides. Wind also whipped up the rain in places like Boynton Beach and Ormond by the sea. Gusty winds and heavy rain today will increase the risk for flooding in South Florida, okay, South Florida. The weather for Florida, the game is tomorrow night into Sunday morning in terms of when we expect the biggest impact statewide. You know, we mentioned the wind blowing the water out of Tampa Bay. It's going to be blowing back in on Sunday, all right? And there's going to be a storm surge component with this, and there's some discussion of some of it may be as high as what we had in Adalia for Clearwater Beach. So get ready for that. There's going to be a squall line, which could have tornadoes as well, and that should highlight your Florida concerns. Rainfall will be statewide. Sure, could we get 3 to 5 inches in spots? If it's going to happen, it's going to happen on the East Coast, where we have the best convergence, and it'll be a wind-driven rain. This is going to be very much like a tropical storm, but it will not be one. All right, we're going to have a low that develops in the Gulf of Mexico, probably starting today, all right, probably somewhere down and through here, and it's going to travel somewhere across the Sunshine State as we go toward tomorrow night and on into Sunday morning. Now, This is not going to be the blizzard of 93, but it's a very similar track, actually. When the blizzard of 93 crossed Florida, it was 975 millibars. All right, that'll be the total low pressure of this particular storm. This one will probably be about in the 995 range. But either way, you've got similarities, and you may set up parts of Florida for severe weather. So right now, you can see this big sprawling high in the east. This is why we have these nasty east coast winds again this morning that are still gusting over 40 miles per hour down here. 23 right now at Miami, 37 Fort Lauderdale. The Palm Beach is getting crushed at 35. Even the Keys, nasty. Then, of course, you factor in the rain. You can see the surface winds. They're going like this, but notice the high cloud. It's going like that. That's with the subtropical jet, and that's the piece that's coming in. So our Torcon number sitting at a 3 right now. We're going to watch this develop and work its way in again. The big day is going to be tomorrow. There you see that low pressure coming at us here, Steph, and with it, the likelihood for the tornadoes, there's the low right there, is going to be more than likely during the overnight hours. Now, given the position of the low, if that were to go farther north or south, that 3 changes.
Yeah, and it shifts a little bit too.
But it is going to be an overnight tornado threat.
And damaging wind threat too. And flood threat. I mean, there's a lot of floods. And, you know, we also have strong winds. We could have them 40, 45 miles an hour. Those coastal impacts here already creating rough surf. Our low hasn't even developed.
All right, take a look at this. Lake Worth Beach, Florida, just south of West Palm Beach. Left side of your screen. Big waves out there. This is part of this story we're tracking for Florida. Miami also dealing with big waves and a whole lot in the way of rain. So today, eyes to the sky and making sure you have your notifications turned on, because we do have the chance for some severe weather, and some of that does happen when the sun goes down. But with the amount of rain that's coming down, it is a lot. Look at this. We've got this area of low pressure we've been talking about all week, saying it's going to develop off the Gulf Coast. It's starting to intensify. As it does so, the winds pick up, the rain continues to come down, and we've got widespread rain over a good chunk of central Florida. Could be dealing with 3 to 5 inches of rain from Tampa clear over to Orlando, all the way down through Miami. We also have a solid onshore wind coming through, and we do have a flood watch along the coast. A lot of that water not only falling from the sky, but getting pushed up against the Atlantic side. So the water falling from the sky trying to drain out, having nowhere to go. Let's talk severe storm threat. Level 2 out of 5 for most of the peninsula of Florida, where we could see plenty of lightning and also see maybe even some rotations, so some tornadoes possible later this evening. Solid onshore push through 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Widespread rain still coming down, consistent and heavy, moderate to heavy at times. You can see the center circulation getting closer to Tampa, and this is through the evening hours. Now look at this, between 10 and 3 o'clock, storm hasn't moved a whole lot. Winds start to shift direction a little bit, and having said that, we do have the chance for that severe weather to pick up. Now as we go through tomorrow morning, we have a few lingering showers still in place, but it is still windy, and most of the wind now switching, coming in from the north-northwest. Here's a look at the estimated rainfall totals. It's a lot. Most of the state, the peninsula here, 2 to 3 inches of rain. The shades of orange that you see here are close to the Big Bend, and of course from Orlando down to West Palm Beach, easily 3 to 5 inches of rain in the forecast for you. So flood threat is there, especially for the lower lying areas, some of those urban flooding. A lot of that could be a story for us as we go through this evening and into tomorrow. And we've got some gusty winds this morning. You can feel it. You're thinking, boy, this is almost like a tropical storm. It's not, but it certainly feels like it for many of you. I'm sure you're thinking that. You got wind speeds sustained mid-20s. Some of those gusts closer to 40 miles per hour. This is for Miami. Orlando for the next 3 days. The rain will be heavy on and for a good chunk of the day. Got some pretty decent winds at 20 miles per hour. Come Sunday, the last of it moves through. It's not till Monday and cold air behind it where you get a break, 65 degrees for an afternoon high. So Kiana, we'll watch for potential flooding, and of course along the coast, big waves, beach erosion could be a problem.
Well, obviously not a great day today for Walt Disney World. It's also going to be a little tough traveling, certainly tonight. Tomorrow morning, things will be improving in Florida tomorrow afternoon. It's going to continue to be quite windy, but at least the rain will be moving out. AAA expects Floridians will break last year's travel record with more than 6 million people traveling before the beginning of the year. Orlando, of course, is a top destination, and if you are going to be traveling, you might want to just wait until tomorrow afternoon at least, when everything is going to begin to move out. So we're watching a powerful storm that's coming in here, and it's got multiple hazards. We've seen a lot of wind already. We've got plenty of rain coming down. There's going to be a lot more of that. But there's this severe threat that will be developing tonight. And, you know, it's tough to message this kind of thing because, you know, there hasn't been much of anything today. There's not much of anything going on right now in terms of severe weather, but it might step up as we go through the night tonight. What we've got a lot of is what we call dynamics. There are very strong winds at several levels of the atmosphere, and that can make storms rotate and produce tornadoes if they get strong enough. And that is the question, are they going to get strong enough as we go through tonight? Here's the area of low pressure right in there. You've got some stronger storms that are offshore. Those are coming towards southwest Florida. There could be a separate area of storms developing in South Florida as well. So certainly keep your eyes on that in Sarasota and Bradenton. Into the southern part of the state, we've got very gusty winds right now, winds gusting to 51 miles per hour in Key West. And so in a lot of respects, this is acting like a tropical system, gusting to 46 miles per hour in Fort Lauderdale and 37 in West Palm Beach. Not a ton of rain right now in South Florida. There's certainly some heavier rain into the western part of the state. Winds gusting 21 in Tampa, 46 in Stewart, 43 in Vero. So, you know, it's been a really blustery night, and that's going to continue right through the night tonight. Now, this is what I want you to pay attention to. So we're looking at three different things here. One is the low-level winds in orange. The other is the winds at about a mile up in the atmosphere. We call that the 850 height level. And so you see the winds of 50 miles per hour right in here at a mile up. These are 50 mile per hour plus winds at a mile up right now. And then the surface winds coming out of the east, southeast, and then the instability. And there's just a little bit of yellow shading right there. There's not a lot of yellow shading right there. So that's what's happening right now.
Rainy, windy, and breezy for our friends in St. Petersburg, Florida. That is for sure, with parts of the Tampa metro area picking up over 2 inches of record rain. A quick live look in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Are you kidding me? Myrtle Beach International Airport reporting not only heavy rain, but fog, mist, drizzle, the whole 9 yards. Temperatures only in the 50s, and we have coastal flood warnings that are in effect not only through 3 o'clock, but wind advisories in effect through 9 p.m. Those winds could gust upwards of 50 miles per hour. There's a lot of energy that this storm system is tapping into. You're looking at water vapor imagery, and everywhere here that you're seeing the lavender coloring, that represents almost like a big wet sponge in the aloft or higher up in the atmosphere that's just getting wrung out by that area of low pressure and that cold front that's charging on through. So much rain, in fact, that places like Charleston, South Carolina, will zoom into it right here. You can see that green box that indicates a flood warning that's in effect through at least 1 o'clock this afternoon. It does include not only Berkeley, but Charleston County and Colton County as well will track that flash flood warning, where we've already picked up several inches of rain. So watch out right along I-26 if you're heading in and out of town. Those little yellow tabs there indicating that just south of Charleston, that's about 2 to 3 inches of rain in just a 3-hour period. So that's a rain rate between 1 inch to 2 inches per hour. It's coming down like cats and dogs. Let's take you to the sunshine state of Florida, where we're not tracking a whole lot of sunshine. We are, though, tracking winds still gusting upwards of 30 to 40 miles per hour. It is going to be a rough go of things, and unfortunately, Zach, this is going to set the stage for perhaps even some severe storms in places like Myrtle Beach later on this afternoon.
AAA has predicted 104 people will be driving to their destinations. The wet and windy weather has already caused some stress for travelers.
Look, they're barricading it. I don't want to go through this.
We're going to have a nice getaway, and this is our nice getaway. But it is what it is, you know?
Storms are expected to persist throughout tomorrow in the northeast.
So essentially what we've been experiencing for the last, week almost, it's just been moseying along up the eastern seaboard, and good riddance to it.
They can have it.
Look, they can have it. Good riddance to all of it.
Sanella, what's a perfect weather day for you, in your opinion?
the weather that we're going to see in the next few days.
Well, that was what I was trying to get to, Sanella.
Yes, in the 70s.
Sunshine.
Yep.
The
Blue
good
sky.
stuff.
Luke,
The good
today was
stuff.
the first time I've seen the sun out in days.
Well, today was great, right? And this next couple days this week is good. All right, so there goes the storm system that we just dealt with. It'll continue through Monday up into the northeast. We're super nice tomorrow. There are two systems. We'll be between them on Monday. The second one is basically a dry front, but that's what swings down our way. This is by Tuesday. That's the one that packs the cold air and drops us down into the 40s in some spots anyway. Temperatures in the mid-60s. We lost Key West there. West-northwest wind is coming down, and that's a nice thing to see, is that as we go into our work week, we go into Monday, it's not going to be the big gusts that we've had here lately. Here's the low temperatures tonight, early tomorrow morning. This will be about sunrise. There's your 50s away from the beaches, low 60s close to the coast, or even upper 50s there by Fort Lauderdale. The Keys, you'll be in the upper 60s. Here's tomorrow. Ooh, perfect stuff. So we'll see a low to no rain chance. I've got a 0 for Miami, and sunshine and a high of 75 with lighter winds out of the west-northwest at about 10, maybe 15. It's just awesome. So there's Monday. Here comes that front by Tuesday again, dropping down with the colder air. What does that look like? Again, Tuesday morning, Monday night, tomorrow night, and Tuesday morning. Look at the 40s spill down. Where you see that blue shading, that's the line that delineates 40s to 50s. So I don't think we get it next to the beaches. But if you're in Pembroke Pines or Hialeah or Kendall or Homestead, 48, 49 degrees, something like that. I'm forecasting 53 for Miami. That would be the coldest yet this season. The coldest that we've been is 57. And then in the Keys, even 50s, 59 in Marathon for a low temperature. Highs here. Look at that. Going to be in below normal all week long, mid to low 70s. I think Tuesday, some of us don't get out of the 60s. That'll help it feel wintry and maybe get you in the holiday spirit. Speaking of holidays, here's your Christmas sneak peek. Watching this storm system in the desert southwest that grabs some rain on the warm side and snow on the cold side. If you want a white Christmas, you got to go to the Mountain West or the far northern plains. Everybody else is going to be dealing with rain or warm temperatures. We fall between that. I think Christmas here right now looks fantastic. We'll say more 70s and sunshine like we have all this week. Look at that. Fantastic forecast here all the way into next weekend, which is Christmas Eve on Sunday. Right now looks like 78, just a 28 or 20% rain chance. Fine.
All hazard storm that's moving through. One of the big concerns is the wind, especially close to the coast. A couple of live shots there in Nantucket. Clearly, this is not a snow event. Temperatures in the upper 50s anywhere you look, whether it's Nantucket, Massachusetts, or other areas across parts of southeastern New York State or coastal New Jersey. We're dealing with temperatures near 60 degrees, breaking record high temperatures. And by the way, Boston broke its daily record high. We're 62 last hour. Bangor, Maine is near 60 degrees, breaking their record high for the day by a lot. So this is a warm and very windy system, reminiscent of the impacts that we would see during summer from a tropical cyclone moving through. And the pressures are not all that different than what you might expect from a northbound tropical system during summer. This is a 985 area of low pressure, which, by the way, challenged and broke some pressure records as it moved up the coast from South Carolina all the way through the mid-Atlantic, now somewhere around 985 millibars. But look at these winds. By the way, Boston, tropical storm force winds, not even close. Sustained almost 50, gusting to 68 miles per hour. And that's in rain-free air. That's not a heavy shower. That's not a thunderstorm. That is just the gradient wind that is moving on by. This is a remarkable system with lots of other reports, including on top of Mount Washington, by the way, where earlier today it was gusting near 110 miles per hour. And that is very significant at 6,000 feet in altitude. But look at this. Plymouth gusting to 59. I saw a report out of Norwood, Massachusetts, gusting to 68. Also gusting to 68 at Logan. No surprise, we've got a ground stop at Logan right now with those incredible winds, and this is going to continue for at least a few more hours. But note that New York, calm. All of it moves on by very quickly, and I might add we got to watch out for this nasty line of very heavy showers. A couple of lightning strikes in there, but the heavy showers might even raise those wind speeds a notch higher. We've already seen Barrington in parts of eastern Rhode Island and western Massachusetts, gusting to near 70 miles per hour. Well, when these heavy showers move through, that line may up those winds by 10. We'll see about that. Be careful. Watch out for downed trees and power lines. This is a veritable squall line moving through. Maybe not a lot of lightning and not thunder, of course, thereafter, but still nasty winds. And this is going to be updated as we go through the next few hours because a lot of winds, I believe, will have exceeded even these exceptional values. We could see some severe weather today. I'm not worried about that. Don't worry about that in terms of your traditional severe weather. This is a weather system wind with the enhancement from the heavier rain. That is what the problem is. And we could see wind gusts as we are already in Boston in the near 70-mile-per-hour range. Here's the good news. Timing this thing out through the early afternoon and mid-afternoon, the strongest winds rapidly move into parts of eastern New England, and they're rapidly into parts of Canada from mid-afternoon on. So we are going to substantially drop those winds by late afternoon and evening. They'll be about half as low or half as strong or more, maybe even 10 to 20 miles per hour, for example, in New York by the evening hours. So there's good news there. This system rapidly moves in the Canadian Maritimes and then takes all of its nasty weather with it. So good news. Hang on, literally, if you can, for the next 6 hours or so.
And take a look at what some of the winds did here. The storm being blamed for causing a wall at a gym to partially collapse. You can see some of the debris right there coming into the parking lot just a bit. Then the heavy rain also leading to some flooding and in turn some road closures in Montgomery County in Maryland. This is just outside of Washington, D.C. You can get a sense, a feel for the wet scene on what is certainly a gray and wet day with a lot of streams and rivers either swollen or overflowing their banks up and down much of the East Coast in spots. So a lot of flooding still ongoing right now. Let's talk about this storm, this potent system that we watched, again, developing, that's kind of really getting going in the Gulf of Mexico and then cranking as it was moving up today. Zipping along through New England this evening and heading out now. There it is. Heavy rain. This was on Saturday into early Sunday. This is Sunday now during the day. And some serious rainfall right in here. That's South Carolina. So let's pick that up here in just a moment because first it was Florida. And all of these different locations broke records on Saturday for rainfall. And this is the rain I want to show you now here. So Sunday, yesterday, it was cranking right there. That hose of just deep red. That is a lot of water. That's what you always watch for, is when it gets that heavy line and it just keeps going in the same spot. It just keeps going and going and going. That's when you end up with some serious overachieving rainfall amounts that in some places anywhere from about 4 inches to more than a foot in South Carolina. So South Carolina absolutely getting soaked from the coast all the way up to the border with North Carolina. Past 24 hours here in the Northeast, from Maryland to New Jersey. See these individual spots here where 3 inches to almost 5.5 inches, 5.48 inches of rain. And in turn, because of that, all of that water draining out. A lot of rivers in flood at the moment. Minor flooding in orange, moderate in red, and also some major flooding being reported in different locations across, Jackie, several states here in the Northeast. So
obviously wind was a huge issue with this. In fact, the peak wind gusts from the storm hit at 90 miles per hour. It occurred at Blue Hill Observatory. That's about 10 miles south of downtown Boston. So obviously this is a multifaceted storm. And of course, now we have to look at how everything is unfolding on this Tuesday. We go to Jim for that.
Well, we still got rivers that are high, very, very high. For the second time, the Winooski River in Essex Junction, Vermont has topped out over 20 feet. That's the second time this year, by the way, that's happened. That means Route 2 is underwater. There are washouts on roads, not only in Vermont, but also across much of New England here. This is absolutely a powerhouse storm, and in no question in my mind, it is the 26th billion-dollar disaster of the year. No question. And I'm talking about multi-billions. So we're still north of 500,000 people without power this morning, 500,000 customers. Maine leading the way. As a matter of fact, the Piscataquis River up toward Dover, they're doing rescues there because that river is so high this morning up in that region. Massachusetts, still north of 130,000 customers without power. Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Vermont as well. Not as bad with the wind, but Vermont had the water. Okay, as did New Hampshire with the snowmelt. So we had a deep tropical tap coming north, all sorts of wind reports. You know, we mentioned the 68 at Boston, but there were at least 2 or 3 dozen 60-mile-per-hour wind reports in the Boston metro area alone. There's Blue Hill. Not only did they gust at 90, but they also gusted at 84 earlier. So 3 hours later, they gusted to 90. Augusta, Maine, 68. Barrington, Rhode Island. We told you this was going to be very much like a strong tropical storm, and that's exactly what happened with the erosion, the coastal impacts, the wind gusts, the tropical rains that made their way all the way into New England. What a year it has been up and through here. It's going to be interesting to see where we wind up in terms of yearly rainfall in places like Boston, Providence, Manchester, Portland. Just incredible amounts of rain. Added to it has been a very, very wet year, even though we had a dry November or early October, I should say. Parsonsburg, Maryland, look at that, 6.4 inches. Now up in Garrett County, Maryland, they've got 6 to 8 inches of new snow on the ground. So we've changed things over in a big way. Look at all the flood reports. Just incredible amounts of flooding yesterday, not only on the coast, but well inland. At one point, you know, we had over a dozen rivers in major flood stage. Some of those are coming down now. I mentioned the Essex River at Winooski is still sitting up there over 20 feet. That is the second time this year we have been over 20 feet. If you remember, July 11th was the other one when we had the big flood.